Hello, welcome to Yin Yoga. Today, our peak pose is we're going to work up to plow. And if you know what that is and you're kind of freaking out because that's not something that's for you, no worries. You will have an option for people who don't want to do plow today. But we're gonna build up to that. Always work at the level that you're in. Take breaks as needed. You do not do yourself any favors holding something for 3 minutes when your body's trying to tell you to come out of it halfway through. So if that's what your body's telling you to do, please do so. It's not a big deal. Um, Theme or affirmations today are just going to be questions to ponder, things that I have thought about before, but recently started thinking about again. And that being said, the only props you'll need today, block you should not need. I'll show you something you can do with that later if you don't have a bolster or a cushion. Sitting on a blanket, and other than that, you should be good to go for today. So coming nice and tall, ears, shoulders, and hips in alignment. We'll take a slight tuck in the chin. And then as you settle into the space, maybe take your inner gaze to your heart center. We'll try to open that up just a little bit today in some different ways. Good. And then from here, when you're ready, with a nice slower breath, fingertips to the side, palms turning up. Inhale, reach, reach, reach. Look up there at those hands. Exhale, hands to the heart center. Good. So you can always come up with any intention that you want, but remember the ones that I'm going to give you today are just different questions to ponder. And then from here, we'll look up. Big inhale and reach. Let's take a gentle side bend towards the left, reaching. So try not to collapse your upper shoulder. Can you open that so that the shoulders and the hips are in a general alignment? Breathe and expand. And then using the obliques, your side abs here. Good. We're going to come up, reach, reach, reach. We'll go again. Other side. Good. Watch shoulder and hip alignment. And then we'll come back up. I'm going to take my hands behind my head. Oh, it was a clip day for me, but not so much for this one. So from here, hands behind the head. Good. Elbows are out wide, but they don't have to be as wide as possible. And with a tall spine, I'm just going to rotate to the right, really taking this left elbow and shoulder back. Breathe and expand. Inhale, exhale, coming back in. We'll take that to the other side. Inhale, exhale, rotating to the right or other side. Your right elbow is going to come back maybe a little bit more. And coming back to center. Good. Get any little movement here that would feel good to your body. That might be a wrist roll, some neck rolls, spinal rolls, shoulder rolls, whatever would feel good to you in this moment. Take a few moments and get those little movements in. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into child's pose. So you don't want to come too deep into this child's pose because it is our first one. Knees can be together as wide as the mat or somewhere in between. And this is just going to be 2 minutes. Now, I personally am going to take my knees as wide as the mat and touch my toes together. But if that's not where you are, don't go to that one. But from here, good. I'm just going to come forward and I'm just going to start down on my forearms here. And as we get into this, I'm going to slide a little bit deeper. So just a couple minutes. Good. And then we'll take our first question to ponder. What does unconditional love mean to me? What does unconditional love mean to me? And as you ponder that, good, focus on good form. So we're still zipping up from the pubic bone behind the navel. Belly button is into the spine. maybe an expansion of that rib cage. And then your body will generally let you know when it's safe to sink deeper, and it'll want to do that on an exhale. Now, what does unconditional love mean to me? I flip that around. What does unconditional love mean to you? Good. And then from here, carefully come back up. Good. From here, we're going to move forward again. We're going to come into a Sphinx pose. Now, I don't need anything under my pelvis today, so I'm just going to come right into it. But you take that prop under there, that folded blanket, if you need it. So coming belly down. Good. This will be another little 2-minute hold here. I'm going to start as a measurement, taking hands under my shoulders, and then I'm just going to slide my arms forward. Now my elbows, you don't want your elbows to be out. You want them to be alongside the body, but kind of maybe just a little bit to the side of the shoulders. My legs are hip width apart. The tops of the feet are down. My belly button is in. Inhale, exhale. I'm going to press my forearms into the floor. Good. And then once I'm lifted, my belly button is still in. I'm going to take that chest more forward. I'm going to look forward. And then I'm going to breathe. My shoulders are relaxed. So what does unconditional love mean to me? What about, am I a patient and attentive listener? So I'll flip that around. Are you a patient and attentive listener? If you're like me, that might depend on the day or the moment. But are we attentive and patient listeners? Good. Now, anytime you feel yourself start to kind of sink down like here, come back in. And if you can't hold that back up, come out completely. Belly button stays in as well. And we never want any crunching sensations to be happening anywhere in the back. If you kind of feel like something's crunching back there, you're too deep into your extension and you need to back off a little bit. Breathe. Am I a patient and attentive listener? Repeat that to yourself. Good. And then from here, good, we'll come down out of there, make a little recovery pillow with the hands. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle those hips. Now I'm going to stay here a little bit longer. If it would feel better for you to take your hands under your shoulders and come back a little bit for child's pose, you can do so. We're going to come to child's pose again here in a minute and add on to what we did. And then from here, if you're not already there, hands under the shoulder, and we'll press back. So before we go into this next one, find your child pose. We're going to do a little bit of side bending here to get into the back body a little bit better. So from here, I'm going to find my child pose. We're not going to be in these super long, so I'm not even going to put the timer on. But from here, my belly button is in. I'm going to walk my hands over towards my right, walking my left fingertips forward, lifting the hips, press into the right hand, sink the hips over towards the left. Breathe and expand. It's getting into the shoulders and the side body a little bit here. Those of you that have plans on going into full plow with me in a moment or later on, this area is important because the shoulders is where the weight goes there. That's your strength. Good. We'll come back up, moving through center. Good. Give yourself a little reset here. And then when you're ready, good. We'll lift up a little bit. We'll walk those hands over to the left. Walk the right fingertips forward. Lift the hips. Press into the left hand. Sink towards the right side. Breathe and expand. And when you're ready, we'll come up and come back. Good. We're going to side lie here and continue to open up the side body. Now, there's different things you can do. So if you've got a blanket today, you can take your blanket. So I've got it kind of quarter folded here. You can fold that blanket in half, and that can be, and just put it right here, and that can be your bolster. So that's going to be your opening here. Okay, if that's what you have. If you have a block and a blanket, but no bolster, get my words out here. Good. You can take your block here, take that blanket over it. Good. And you can do something makeshift that way. I do have a bolster today, so I am going to use that one. I'm just going to put this out of the way. Now, another thing you can do for those of you that have a longer torso, where this might be a little too low, if you've got another blanket or two, maybe quarter folded, you can put that over top here, and then that will help you get into the side body a little bit better. So just something to think about for those of you with longer torsos. I am 4'10". I don't have a long torso, so that's not my issue here. But I've got this on my right side to start. So you can put your knees, your legs, your feet, just anywhere that feels good to them. You can have a long leg, you can have two long legs, two bent knees. That part doesn't matter. This is the focus. Okay, so I'm just going to take this across. Good. And this will be about another 2 minutes here. And you can adjust as needed as you want to. My top arm's going to come overhead. Some people also like something to support their head. So if that's something that you need or want, feel free to go there. Good, and I'll probably, there it goes. So always hold in my side. So this is kind of opening up the heart chakra through the side. So if you cough, that's just your body releasing things that it doesn't need. Let yourself do that. Good. So what does unconditional love mean to me? Am I a patient and attentive listener? How can I cultivate the feeling of peace in my everyday life? How can I cultivate the feeling of peace in my everyday life? A big one for me is just turning off the news, or maybe only watching 30 minutes of local, 30 minutes national that follows local, and not turning to cable news networks. Okay. So how can you cultivate the feeling of peace in everyday life? Does that mean saving, a few extra bucks a week in the savings account? All of this means different things to different people. Good. A lot of releasing here. Good. So usually my holding tends to be on my left side, not my right side. So that's actually pretty interesting. So how can I cultivate the feeling of peace in my everyday life? Good. And then from here, good. Top hand's going to come around somewhere to support you as you carefully press up from there. And then we're just going to switch sides. So I'm just going to take this bolster over here. Good. Take a moment to reset a blanket or block in blanket if you took those options. Good. And then whenever you're ready, we'll take 2 minutes from here. So I'm nice and close to my prop. Good. I'm just going to take that over. Good. You can readjust your body as you need to. There's that side. Good. So how can I cultivate peace in my everyday life? I do a lot of journal. When I journal my anxieties and frustrations, I become more at peace because that's a way of releasing. Sitting in nature, so sitting on your deck, sitting on the beach, taking a hike. And I would somewhat argue, so you've, seen and heard me cough in these positions today, my body releasing something no longer serving it. So I believe when we let our bodies release things that are no longer serving it, you're getting those things up and out. And then maybe the body and the mind is a little bit more at peace now because you're not holding on to that that's no longer serving you. Whatever it is. You don't always have to know what it is. I'm taking an online finance course right now, so very challenging. I know exactly what it is when I'm holding on to. Good. And then from here, good. So the top hand's going to come to help support you as you come up from here. Good. Nice and slow and controlled. Good. Notice how you feel. And we're going to open up the lower body just a little bit here. So I'm going to move my bolster out of the way for that. Good. I had a very long seated meditation this morning. My hips are a little tight. So I'm going to bring my blanket in here to sit on that. Good. And we're going to take this into a 3-minute wide legged forward fold here. So I'm just going to sit on the edge of my blanket. I'm going to take my legs out to the side. So remember, we don't want to come wide as possible. So for example, here's my wide as possible. I'm just going to bring that in a little bit. You want to be able to give your body somewhere to go and sink into. And if you're at your max from the start, not only does that give you or put you at risk for injury, but then your body can't sink deeper because it doesn't have anywhere to go. So from here, good, we're going to zip up. I've got a little bit of an anterior tilt of the pelvis. So that just means my frontal hip bones are tilting forward. So my tailbone is tilting back. Okay. Feet are in flexion. Big inhale and reach. Exhale, lean forward. I'm not going to go all the way forward. I'm going to take my hands down here. And I'm going to let gravity guide my body deeper into this pose as it's ready. We talked about unconditional love, patient, attentive listening, cultivating peace. What about how can I bring more joy into my daily life? How can I bring more joy into my daily life? Maybe that's making time for your hobbies, hobbies that bring you joy, making time for family and friends that bring you joy. So in this one too, try to keep a long spine here. Try not to collapse and round. You can always bring in a bolster or a prop in here too for support. That's what your body needs. So how can I bring more joy into my daily life? Maybe that's doing work that you love to do. And we've got less than a minute. My belly button is still drawn up and in. And come back to that breath. Ready? Carefully, carefully come up out of there. Good. If you need to move your body in any way that would feel good to you, a little bit of rotation, a little side bending, go ahead and do that now. Otherwise, I've got my fingers behind my knees here. I'm going to pull my feet in. We're going to set up for a puppy pose. So as we get ready for that, so this is another heart opening back bend here. We will not be here for too long. Let me about a minute and a half. So different cupping positions made for different people. Good. So remember option one, you want to try, excuse me, you want to try to keep the hips over the knees. Okay. So you might take your forearms down to blocks or the floor and then take your chest forward. Good. Kind of like you're trying to do a cow pose if we were doing cat cow. And that might be your puppy today. Other people might take a block under the chest. You can also come back to that blanket, quarter folded. You can fold it again this way. And then that can be a nice prop for you right at the chest. So then you're not worried about sinking too deep here. You've got that support. Arms can come forward. Or if you've got the full puppy, you can do that one as well. And that is the one that I am going to demo today. So from here, I'm going to start. Good. I'm just going to slide forward. I'm taking my heart towards the floor. Good. Some of you might get the chin down if you're doing the full, looking forward, just like puppy dogs do. Or it might be better for you to take your forehead to the floor. You do what feels good to you. If you've got a neck issue, obviously don't take the chin to the floor. But anytime you're in a back bend, our belly button is in. Our front body allows us to back bend safely. Don't forget it. So maybe the next question to ponder is, am I living my truth? Am I living my truth? Or another question is, what is your truth? What is your truth? And then from here, based on where you went with that, carefully come out of there in the way that's best for your body. Good. I'm just going to come up and do a nice cat position as my counter. So I'm really pressing the floor away. I'm rounding my spine. Good. Now we're going to get into that counter a little bit deeper here. We're going to take a caterpillar pose, which is a seated forward fold. Yeah. Good. We'll do that one for 3 minutes. I'm going to bring my folded blanket back in here to sit on. Good. And if you've got a prop that you might need, so you can have a bolster right on top of the legs. You can open the legs a little bit here, have that bolster coming in between. That can be a nice support, especially if you get into the habit of collapsing. You get a little bit of support here when you fold in. Also keeps you from folding in too deep if that is something you need to be mindful of. But from here, good, I'm going to sit. I'm going to come to that anterior tilt of the pelvis. So my frontal hip bones are rocking forward. My tailbone is rocking backwards. I am nice and tall. Big inhale and reach. Exhale. Good. Long fold first. Come right before your edge. And then you can round and come in. You can grab anything you can grab. It might be legs, feet, or toes. Good. Breathing and expanding. You want to see if you can breathe into the back body here. So when you open and breathe through the rib cage, you should feel that there. If you need another visual, envision a medical provider putting a stethoscope back there to listen to your lungs, and they tell you to breathe deep. You're breathing into the back body when you do that. So hopefully that helps some of you. So am I living my truth? Or what is my truth? Good. What about, what can I open my heart to today? What can I open my heart to today? Is that a new thought or idea? Is it making a phone call or sending an email or reaching out to somebody or something like that that you keep putting off? So just allow your body to sink deeper as it's ready. Try not to force it to do anything it's not ready for. So trying to reach for the feet and gripping with all your might, trying to come deeper into this forward fold is unwise. So if that's a goal for you to be able to do deeper, then open your heart to personal practice. And then from here, when you're ready, carefully, carefully come out of there. Good. And again, if your body needs you to take any little movement to make it feel a little bit better, for me, that's usually a little bit gentle twisting here. Feel free to take that. Speaking of twisting, that's where we're going to go next. We're going to come onto our backs for some supine twisting. I'm just going to move some stuff out of the way here. I'll bring this a little bit closer. And before I come down, good, I'm just going to go ahead and fold this blanket because I'll use that as a prop example here in a moment. Good. So you just come onto your back. Just set the timer. Good. And once you're down here, if it would feel good to you, take your feet as wide as the mat and just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle side to side. Belly button is still in here because you're still taking the body into some rotation. The spine to be more specific. Now, from here, when you're ready, let's do this very basic today. So I'm going to take one knee at a time into tabletop knees. Knees are over the hips, shins are parallel to the floor. Arms are going to come to the side, and I'm going to take my knees over to the left. Oh, I ran out of space. Move over a little bit this way. So tabletop knees, good. Moving over to the left. Good. I want to try to keep my right shoulder grounded. You can choose to look to the right or not. Good. There's something else to ponder. What can I do better tomorrow? What can I do better tomorrow? So it can be something a little bit deeper, like being a more attentive, listening coworker or family member. It can be recommitting to drinking more water. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something deep. But what could you do better tomorrow? How can you be better tomorrow? And find the expanding breath. Breathe. Always reconnecting with breath. What could you do better tomorrow? Okay. And then from here, head's going to come back. Let's gently come out of here today. One leg at a time. It's going to come back to center. Good. Let yourself get a nice little wiggle, wiggle here. Good. And then for me, because I had to move out from my wall, I'm going to scoot back in more where I was. Good. So knees are going to come back into tabletop position. Belly button is in. I'm going to let those knees come over to my right. Good. I want my left shoulder to stay grounded. You can choose to look straight up or look to the left. Breathe and expand. We talked a little bit about our truth earlier. What is your purpose? What is my purpose? Breathe and expand. If you're holding on at the hips, could you release a little bit there? I just caught myself doing that. What is your purpose? What's your dharma? Another way of saying that. What is your purpose? And then from here, head will come back to center. Good. One leg at a time is going to come back to center. And again, if it would feel better to you to rock side to side, we'll come through there. Good. Now, I'm just going to come up here. We're going to go into plow and legs up the wall. We're going to do both of those for about a minute. Some of you are only going to do legs up the wall if you know that full plow, which is, the feet coming back behind you, it's not a good place for you to be. Just do legs up the wall. You'll get that for 2 minutes. And those of us doing plow will just do it for 1. So different things for different people based on what you have. If you've got a block, we'll do legs up the wall first. You can put that block under the sacrum at this setting or this setting. I want you to avoid this setting because then you've got the tailbone primarily on here, and then your SI joints are kind of in a janky position here. So this one or this one, all 3 of those areas are supported. So there's that as an option. Again, you've got a quarter fold blanket. You can fold that blanket just like this. This might be your legs up the wall prop. You can also be on a bolster. If you would like to do that, I'm going to choose my block. And if you've got something going on back here that's a little bit sensitive, I would not recommend a block. I would recommend a softer surface or nothing under there at all. Good. So from here, good, I'm just going to lift. I'm going to take this block underneath. You want to make sure whatever prop you're using is right under the tailbone and the sacrum. You don't want it to be under here into the lumbar. Let me reset here. Good. And then when you're ready, one leg at a time, it's going to come up here. So if this is where you're going to be for the whole time, there's no shame. This is still an inversion. This is still considered an inversion. This one just happens to be a very most accessible inversion. It's also a great one to do if you travel a lot, sit in the car a lot, on your feet a lot, spend a lot of time sitting in a plane. Once you get somewhere, you can lie on a bed in a hotel room and do this. You can even put the feet up against the headboard so you don't have to worry about, actively propping them up. Just that reverse energy, reverse blood flow, getting the lymph moving down there that collects sometimes. It's just great. Good. Now, some of you are going to stay right there. Others are going to come into plow. There are some of you that might be able to come into plow from here. I cannot, so I have to remove my prop. What I will say here is a couple things. If you're taking your feet back and your feet do not comfortably touch the floor, I want you to keep your hands at your low back for safety. And you can either put blocks or a bolster back there if your feet aren't too far from the ground, so they're touching something. That's better than doing a bouncy bounce. Don't do a bouncy bounce with your leg. But from here, when you're ready, it'll give me a few little seconds of lead time here. Good, big inhale, exhale, taking it back. Good. And then I'm going to hinge my hips. Good. Legs can separate about shoulder width apart. Ideally, you want your elbows and shoulders span alignment. I've got a few limitations in mind, so I can't quite get there. My belly button is in. My weight is in my shoulders, not my neck. I know that because I feel the weight in my shoulders, and that bone that pops out when we're on our neck, that's at the base of the neck, that's not comfortable. That's your warning sign that you're no longer in your shoulders. Okay. Now, those of you that can comfortably touch, you can take your, arms long, clasp the hands. I'm not one of those people, but if that's where you are, then that is fine. My belly button is still in here. Come out at any time. From here, good. I don't have any props underneath me, so I'm just going to gently roll out of here. Okay, you might need to come out a little bit differently, but try to never just slam down coming out of plow or any other inversion. All right, from here, it is Shavasana time. So I'm going to grab my bolster, putting that under my legs here. Good. I'm going to take my blanket. I'll use that as a little neck pillow. So the final thing I would like for you to ponder as we go into our Shavasana time today is I fully love and embrace who I am, even as I continue to grow. I fully love and embrace who I am, even as I continue to grow. Begin to take some deep breaths here. Choose stillness or gently take head and neck from side to side. Choose stillness or invite movement of fingers and toes. Choose stillness or bringing knees into the chest. Choosing to keep the upper body grounded or tucking the chin, lifting up, full body hug. And choosing stillness, removing any props that you were using out of the way. Taking legs long in front of you, arms long behind you, and reach and lengthen from the edge of the fingertips, the edge of the toes. Full body stretch. Point and flex through the feet. Bend and stretch through the hands, rolling wrists and ankles in one direction, and then in the other. And then from here, whenever you're ready, carefully bending in both knees, and you choose rolling over to your right or left side, the side that works best for your body in this moment. Taking all the time that you need here, and when you're ready, pressing yourself up to a comfortable seat. Where we begin our practice. Deep breath, noticing how you feel. Fingertips to the side, palms turning up. Inhale, reach, and lengthen, touching palms together. Exhale, hands and heart center. Coming back to our last thought about fully embracing and loving who we are, even as we continue to grow. And then from here, thumbs to the forehead for good and true thoughts, to the lips for good and kind words, and to the heart for open and loving heart. Knowing no effort on this mat is ever wasted, no gain is ever reversed. May you be safe, may you stay well, may you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Namaste.